all of those like jokes I tell about Kenny's house and like the acreage and the
Mm,
security gate and
right, right. All the false things he says about.
yeah, that's really James's house.
I could
Like
imagine the guy.
that's
He's
that's
got a lake.
that
It's a
is
lake.
that is really James's house. James sent me a note like because I went I finally made a trip out to Amsterdam this weekend for a little Christmas party, and James sends the address and says your name is under my name when you get to the gate. And I thought, and I'm in my head, I'm envisioning, how does that work? Like, how do I punch that in on a little screen? No, 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 no. You tell the armed gatekeeper
Come
you're
on, man.
here to see
Come on,
James
man.
Ham, and if your name is on the list, she'll let you in. So all of these jokes I've been telling for 2.5 years about Kenny's house turn out to all be completely accurate
They
for
had the wrong
James's.
guy the whole time.
I don't know that they're armed. They're armed with a button that has a gate that you can't get
I
through.
don't know. It was a nice lady, but she looked like she was armed.
It's possible. I never know. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to make it up.
Saw the famous bar.
The famous bar.
I
What did
was
you
really
think?
excited to see the little corner. I got caught up like in your little library area where you do the show. I was going through some of your books. I almost checked a couple out. I was like, hey, I don't think I've read this book. Like
The
I
James Ham Library.
almost asked for a library card and checked a couple out there. But yeah, we had a good time hanging out, talking. Some good people, man. It was fun. It was nice to be around each other and be around your friend and only talk Kings basketball part of the night rather than the entire night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where I sit and watch games when they're on the road. That's my office. The bar is my office. So yeah, it's a good group of people. I'm glad you're able to make it up.
What's
Sorry,
no,
sorry,
no,
Kenny, go
no,
ahead.
you got it. You got it. Because I was about to
Well,
ask him about the game you watched on Friday night.
well, let's do it.
Yeah. What'd you think? Did you ever think they were going to lose that game on Friday? Maybe it's more specific. Once they got the lead in the third quarter, did you think they had it in hand, or was it still up in the air?
There was a moment in the first half where I thought, "Oh, do they have the legs?" That's
Mm,
where I started to see, do they have the legs? And then what we're seeing is this team is figuring out how to punch back in the third quarter. And they got the Pistons on their heels. And I no, once we got to the mid third quarter, I thought that game was over, and like really impressive to finish a 6-game road trip that way. And look, this team has not had success. It hasn't had continued success forever. I asked a question. You guys ran the video of me asking the question earlier about De'Aaron. He didn't even know this team has not been 5 games over 500 since 2006. 2006, they haven't been 5 games over 500. They have an opportunity tonight. Then they could actually maybe they could get 6 games over 500 again. 2006,
yeah.
the last 2 games of the season, they won to get to, was it 44 and 38?
Wow.
But like, that's the magnitude of what this group is up against is so incredible. Like, this is something, like, we keep talking about the history and the 16 years and all this stuff, but it's not just 16 years of like, some highs and lows. It's 16 years of horrific basketball.
Mm.
Maybe 1 or 2 seasons where you can point to that there was even a glimmer of real hope. This is the first year. And so, like, I'm happy to see these players kind of get to that, especially guys like Fox and Barnes that have been here for a long time, and they're figuring out how to get over the hump.
Mm.
And it makes games like tonight, though, to me, at least mentally tougher because Detroit was the second worst team in the league, second only to Charlotte, the team that they're playing tonight.
Yeah, but you know what? They just got LaMelo back, and this team really they were good last year. They were fun last year. They made a bunch of changes, and Steve Clifford's there, and they swapped out coaches. No Jay Triano running the offense. Of course, no Bridges. That team is very different, and so they're starting to, like, they've lost 7 straight, so it's hard to say that they're turning a corner. But, again, this is a team that has been playing for most of the year without their 2 best players. One that they'll play the entire year without, and the other that missed all the first half of the season, or the first 25, 30 games. So I expect this to still be entertaining, though. It's a team that's on the second night of a back-to-back. and one of the worst back-to-backs in the league. Anytime you got to go from Denver or Utah to Sacramento or the Bay Area and play on the second night of a back-to-back, it's almost a scheduled loss. You got the travel's bad. It's not an easy trip to the airport for some of these places, and like it's just not a good conducive to winning type of trip. I mean, I would be surprised if Charlotte has a lot left in the tank, and if the Kings hit them hard like they did the Pistons in the third quarter, they'll likely fold.
Denver's airport allegedly demonic. You heard that? It's a demonic airport.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, real talk. I think we talked about this before on the show.
I feel like we have.
Yeah, but you talk about
though the last couple of weeks you've been having, like I'm not sure that the Caraway compound isn't demonic.
Craziness, just craziness. But you talk about Charlotte and Steve Clifford. I mentioned to Damien, it really feels like, just from the outside looking in, there's a bit of a I don't want to call it a power struggle because I don't think it's that, but I think Steve Clifford took over this team, took back control over this team from what he had before, and he's encountered a bunch of guys who have a bunch of bad habits, at least for the way that he likes to play basketball, and he is doing everything he can to work them out of those bad habits, and they're struggling to win games because of that, because it seems like, hey, you're going to do it this way. This is the way it needs to be done. And they're like, well, we ain't done it this way in 4 years. What do you, and maybe it is a power struggle a little bit, but it feels like that's what's going on with Charlotte right now. Plus, like you talked about, not having your two best players.
Well, and even when you do get LaMelo back, like he likes to freelance. That guy's out there doing his own thing. He's never liked structure. That's why he ended up playing in Lithuania and Poland and all kinds of other places. Like, he's always been a guy that wants to do his own thing and dances to the beat of his own drum. And that's fine. But when you get a coach like Steve Clifford, like that's where the marriage like almost looks like it's a bad fit from the beginning. I mean, you just lock that guy up to a 3 or 4 year deal, and he's an authoritarian. He's a X's and O's and a defensive minded coach. And it's a lot different than what we're looking at here in Sacramento with Mike Brown. Mike Brown is a attention to detail guy, but he's also a player's coach. He's also someone who, brings the joy to the court. He's also someone who, while he loves defense, he also understands that when you're an assistant on the Golden State Warriors, that, you got to play up tempo in the modern NBA. And so I think that, like, the Kings really did get a good coach. And I'm not saying that Steve Clifford's a bad coach, but what I am saying, he might not have been the right coach for the roster that they have. And it's just kind of a strange fit, and we'll have to see how it goes for him.
Real quick, Dame, James brought up a great point thinking about Mike Brown. And I really believe when you talk about like Mike Brown, his time with Cleveland, his time with San Antonio, his time with the Lakers, I think that time with the Warriors did so much good for him in his growth as a coach, because he was a guy who was, just kind of grinded out or whatever, but he got an opportunity to see, and maybe he got the same experience in San Antonio. But I feel like that time in Golden State, like you can play defense at a high level and still have a beautiful game on the offensive end. You can be freelancing a little bit. You could be, have player movement and do all this other stuff. And I feel like he incorporated that, even if it's not into his game, into his coaching style, but into the coaches that he brought along with him, where it's like, hey, I know I'm a defensive guy, but I need this type of offense here in my next job in Sacramento. I credit it to Golden State. I think his time there did wonders for him.
Yeah, I think it did wonders to work for a guy like Steve Kerr, who, again, it comes from the Phil Jackson tree and the Greg Popovich tree. So he's got a lot of different types of styles that he uses to reach players and to connect. Phil Jackson was like the king of like finding ways to reach players and get into players' heads and like bring them into the inner circle. And then of course Popovich is the structure and the military and all that stuff. So I think Steve Kerr really has a lot of cool things that he brought to the table that Mike was able to learn from. I'll also tell you, like, look, Mike, he's been honest about like his path since the last time he was a head coach. I believe, got divorced between then and now. His life has changed a lot. He's not a young guy who's trying to make it in the league. And I mean, we talked about this the whole time when they were like looking at these coaches. Mike Brown came into this season with a 616 win percentage.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know where that ranks at all time, but I'm going to guarantee it's in the top 20.
Hmm.
Like he like win percentage wise was one of the greats. And you can say LeBron, or you can say that he was there with like all these things. You can make excuses for why that happened, but there are other coaches that have come around and been with LeBron and not put up that type of win percentage. And I think that we overlooked Mike Brown quite a bit in this whole search. And Mike Brown, he's just the right guy at the right time. That's what it feels like to me. And, I hope he's able to keep going like this because he's so much fun, especially when they're winning.
Yep.
That's D'Lo and Casey, along with James Ham here on KIFM West Sacramento, 98.5 FM, KRX, QHD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Driven by last year's Elk Grove Dodge. Always live on the free Odyssey app. We're live on Twitch and YouTube as well. If you're on youtube.com/ESPN 1320, we ask you to hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe buttons as well. If you're just listening on the radio or the Odyssey app, you can always go check out the ESPN 1320 YouTube channel or Twitch channel later on in the day. Always really, really good content for you there. And speaking of Mike Brown is advocating for everybody. He started a press conference the other day or a couple of weeks ago where I think saved a table from falling over on him when he was showing us his socks for some reason. But he was talking about Malik Monk being the sixth man of the year. I saw him talking yesterday about Domantas Sabonis being an all-star. Everyone said detail. Man, he's fighting for his guys. Like you mentioned that fine line of being a detailed guy but being a player's coach. Man, he's out there fighting for his guys to get some recognition here.
Yeah, well, and I think his guys deserve the recognition.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing if he's out there, pining for somebody that doesn't deserve it. But Malik Monk all of a sudden is up to 15 points a game. We're watching Domantas Sabonis Anthony Davis has been really, really good this season. He's going to miss a bunch of time now, but he's been really good this season. And Jokic, of course, is the two-time reigning MVP. If you had to list the centers in the Western Conference right now, it's Jokic, AD, and Sabonis.
And that's it. Yep.
And it might even be, Jokic, Sabonis, AD, with AD being out. And we don't know if he'll be around for the All-Star game or not, but Anthony Davis could still steal an All-Star appearance just because he plays for the Lakers. So if you're a Kings fan and you're out there, start voting and start voting like nonstop. Like get Sabonis to the All-Star game because I think you still have an opportunity to get two in. You do. Fox is still highly regarded. He's still had a very, very good season, even though he's had maybe 2 or 3 weeks where his numbers are down a little bit. But I expect him, especially on this homestand, to really take off again. And I think, this homestand sets up for the All-Star game. Like the Kings are playing, what is it, 11 out of 13 at home, but it's actually something bigger than that.
Yeah, it's 15 to 19.
Yeah, 15 out of 19, yeah. So, I mean, that takes you all the way to the end of January. That's when the All-Star balloting is really happening and really finishing up. So, if the Kings can go on a run here and all of a sudden we talk about it, they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 games over 500 somehow. He's got a shot. You got a shot to get two guys in without any question.
Yeah. I talked about, I've been talking about this homestand for a minute, probably, driving Damian crazy because I bring it up every chance I get. But I just think it's really imperative. There's 15 home games in the next 19 games. I think it's going to set the groundwork, set the foundation for what this team is going to be able to do for the rest of the season. If they're going to be a legit top 6 team, or they're going to be a team that's fighting in that play-in range. You don't have to put a number on it. I did it myself, but I said, these 15 games, I'd like to see them be 10-5 in these 15 home games. Judging not necessarily about the competition or nothing like that, but more so about just the way they've shown that they're playing at home. They're right now, I think they won 8 of 9 at the Golden One Center. and they've talked a lot about how they draw so much energy from being at home, and we've seen it with how they play at home. I think this is a big opportunity for them to kind of solidify themselves in that top 6 category of the Western Conference.
Yeah, without going through all of the games and just marking off, win, loss type deal. I would say 10-5. It might even be on the low side. Like you would hope that they would like 10-5. I think would be a minimum. What are they at home this year? They're I don't have they're 8-4 at home. So I mean that's basically 10-5. But you got to remember they lost like the first 4 or
no, first 3.
their first 3, and then so since then they've been really good. They've won, like you said, 8 out of 9. So I don't want to put an exact number on it. I mean, you do have like Denver twice, like on a back-to-back. You've got Denver. That, like, what kind of scheduling anomalies are these? It's just very strange. Although it does wipe out that horrible back-to-back, of having to go to Denver and someone else. But anyway, my point is, like, this is a moment where if they seize the opportunity, if they ride the wave of the fan base and light the beam and all the fun that's happening, they got a really good shot, especially with the last 25 games of this season, very specifically. And we're talking about, it's funny, I was doing math in my head. So right now they're 16-12. So that's 28 games. They've got the next 19 games. So put that together, that's 57, right? So they've got, maybe that's 47. So they've got like 35 games after that. The last 25 games of this season, it's going to be a mad rush for a bunch of teams that are trying to pick up wins and a handful of teams that are trying to pick up losses. Like, this is going to be one of those things where there are going to be a ton of teams just going, yep, we're good. We're playing for Victor, and that's it. And so that last 25 games of this particular season, I think, is going to be really, really strange to watch. It's going to be a lot of easy wins on the table.
Have you heard anything about, and Kenny talking about, you tired of bringing something up? You've got to be tired of me asking this, but it's based on Mark Stein writing about Monty McNair and a potential extension with Sacramento. You've been all over this story for months. Have you heard anything about a Monty McNair extension?
Yeah, okay, so I wrote about it yesterday. I didn't put it out till late last night. So my Sunday musings, I had a segment of it on the Monty McNair situation. Like, look, we've heard the rumors here in Sacramento. We've heard the rumors that not only is there a good chance that, Monty will be extended, but there's a possibility that, maybe the deal's already done and that they're just waiting until next month to announce it, which, again, doesn't make a lot of sense for a myriad of reasons. Like, why would you wait? There's no reason to wait. But like, when you get news like that, you get rumors like that, you got to track them. And like, I've gone pretty high up the chain and got some pretty strong denials about that story. And so I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'll tell you, it's something I wrote yesterday. Like, Monty McNair is on the phone with Vivek Ranadive at least once a day. Vivek talks to him all the time. He calls, he checks in, they talk daily. So, like, if there's going to be a deal that gets done, it can happen in a day. It can happen quickly because they're already in constant communication. They already know what he's going to want and what Vivek's going to want to pay, and all, like, the parameters of a deal wouldn't take long to put together. There's industry standards basically that could be followed that this thing could get done quickly. And I've talked to Monty myself. He loves Sacramento. He loves the direction of the team. He loves the vibe that's happened here. But he also, he understands the business and that this will take care of itself. And that means if he builds a winner, he'll get a big offer. And the only thing, I said it to you guys early, the only question is, does he do so well that he gets a bigger offer from somebody else? And that's where, if you're the Kings, it's on you. Lock it up. Yeah. This is a guy that helped create what's happening here. He's the one that, is helping to create the buzz that's happening in Sacramento. And, he probably won't be around this week. He'll be in Las Vegas with the G League showcase, because that's where a lot of, like, the early stages of trade conversations happen, is at the showcase down in Vegas. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens right after the holidays because the Kings they're playing that well, and he's done that good of a job putting a team together.
He's built this team from the ground up, as we like to say. He's got it out the mud. The only two people still are three people. It's Rashawn, Harrison, and Fox.
Yeah.
And everything else he's put together, he's built, he's willed and dealed to be able to get these guys in here, man. So I'm not breaking any news, but he absolutely deserves an opportunity. And I would say an opportunity to see this thing through. Like, he built it. Now let's see what you can do with it. If you can expand on it, if you can, make this a perennial playoff team and possibly a contending team. He's definitely earned that opportunity with what he's put together.
Well, that, and you let him hire the coach. Okay, first of all, you let him trade a young all-star level point guard. Then you let him trade away the first round pick. And then you let him hire a coach. Like, all of these things are something that you do for someone who's going to be there long term. Like, you don't want to have someone else inherit this. Like, sure, this could be a really good thing, but like, again, Monty has extended himself when it comes to the draft pick situation with the Herder trade. Yeah. He's a guy who, like, he's the one who built the relationship with Domantas Sabonis, like, right off the bat. He's the one you want negotiating the extension for Domantas Sabonis after next summer, not this coming summer, but the following summer. So I would assume that if they are going to do something, it'll be a 3-year deal, that 3-year contract extension that matches Mike Brown's tenure in Sacramento, and then go from there. Yeah. But still got to get it done. And to date, like, we haven't seen the press release come across yet, and I haven't got a solid thumbs up from anybody that's actually done.
But we did get a solid thumbs up from De'Aaron Fox, that he's feeling pretty healthy. You got a chance to talk to him today. What were your takeaways from that conversation?
Yeah, he looks like he's got a smile back. I think he ran into it there for a little bit. Just the accumulation of injuries kind of slowed him down and snowballed on him a little bit. He had the 2 games off. I think it cleared his head. And I think he's ready to roll. He said the Philadelphia game, while he didn't shoot well when he first came back, that was the first game that he actually felt like better, and he felt his best that he has in like a month. He also said that I asked him if he was going to wear a Band-Aid tonight, because he still has stitches. You can visibly see like 2 little blue stitches right by his eye. And he's like, I think they're going to take these out right now. He's like, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go in the back room. They're going to clip out the stitches and pull them. So maybe he wears a Band-Aid, maybe he doesn't. But either way, like, he's healthy. He looks good. He looks like he's ready to really step back into the role that he was doing the first 20 games of the season, where he was just incredible.
From what I remember, that's the worst part of stitches, is getting them taken out. That hurt. The stitches themselves didn't hurt. Getting them taken out, that was like, oh. I mean, it wasn't like painful, but I was like, oh, goodness gracious. I hope I never experience it again. But yeah, De'Aaron, I thought in the game against Philadelphia, I thought he looked good. The shots just weren't falling, but I thought he looked like he had a bounce to his step, and he was playing normal, in my opinion, from what I see from him visually. But I thought he really, like, got down and dirty and got into his bag in that Toronto game. I really loved the grit and the aggressiveness that he played for. And it was one of those, it played within that Toronto game. And it was one of those things, in my opinion, where he was like, no, we're not losing this game. He had one of those moments where he's like, we're not losing this game. And if we lose, it's not going to be because I was passive, or, I didn't, put up the shots, or have the certain level of aggressiveness. And I love to see that. And him saying that he feels better now, I hope that's the Fox that we get back to seeing, especially on his homestand.
Yeah, I mean, he came back and he almost put up double-doubles in both of the games. He had 1 double-double and almost a second double-double in the final 2 games of the road trip. Like, look, this is the guy that you need. The Toronto game you talked about, he played 42 minutes that night. And, like, the flu bug has gone around this team too over the last, like, week. Alex Len, of course, had to leave the team for a little bit. He did rejoin the team in Detroit But he was sick. And, with Alex Len, he's a guy that once he misses a week, it might take him 2 weeks to get back up to playing speed. That's just the way his body works. But Davion Mitchell missed a game with the flu. This team is coming together though. And like right now we're watching, like the only guys that aren't with the team are Chima Moneki and Keon Ellis, who have gone to, with the Stockton Kings down to the G League showcase. Even Nemias Keita is still here in Sacramento. And again, that's probably because, Alex Len isn't on the injury report, but maybe Alex Len can go. Maybe he can't. I don't know. He was at shoot around this morning, but it's really fun when you go to a shoot around and you got like 15 bodies on the court. Everyone is playing. Everyone is up and down and having a good time. And, they got the music blaring. They're all competing to, how many shots they can get. And they move from one spot on the floor to the next. So, yeah, the spirit of this team right now is really good.
So you pretty much answered this question, but just so it's flat out asked and confirmed, Davion Mitchell was at shoot around and is expected to play tonight.
Oh yeah, Davion's playing. Yeah, their injury report has no one on it except for Chima Moneki, who's with the Stockton Kings.
Any other notes from shoot around?
Not really. I mean, it was.
Did you talk to anyone besides De'Aaron?
No, we were trying to get Keegan, and we were also trying to get Malik Monk to talk about Charlotte, his Charlotte experience, but both of them had other things going on. And by the time we got done with Fox, I guess Keegan was already on the training table, just getting worked on after practice. So, and that's another, like Keegan Murray. I think he found himself on the road. Yeah. That's why we wanted to talk to him today, because it's his first huge road trip in his young career, a 6-game trip. And like during the trip, you saw him sort of find himself. He's up to I think it's around 14 points a game over the 6 games. His shooting numbers are better. Yeah, he's starting to come around.
I thought he flexed a little bit in that game on Friday. He got into a situation where he was like, all right, I'm going to turn my game up here. And, I'm sure he says it's just, another game.
You called it, though. You called it on Friday. You were like, step out there a little bit.
You can get out there and see what you can do, man. You're going up against Jaden Ivey, man. And I know he's not that type of guy. He's not thinking about it that way. But, these are little things that would motivate me. Okay, nothing personal with Jaden Ivey, but, I heard everything that was said about me being drafted in front of him. I want to show him what I can do. And I felt, especially in that third quarter, the way he started that, I think Mike Brown and the Kings looked for him a little bit. And I thought he, picked his game up a little bit at that moment, man. And I love seeing that from Keegan, man.
Yeah. And, Jaden Ivey looked every bit the part of the Rod player that we heard he would be coming into the league. And Keegan looked like the mature player that everyone expects, right? And, Jaden, of course, fouled out. And I think he only played like 22 minutes and fouled out. He had like 5 points and 5 assists, but just like all over the place, jumping on people's backs.
That was wild.
It was all over the place. And it's something that like people need to remember. Like Mike Brown has made this point, but there's a big difference when you're playing for the Detroit Pistons, who are at the bottom, not the bottom, but close to the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. And you're playing for a team that's 4 games over 500 and the 5th seed in the West. Like there's a huge difference in how a rookie is dealt with in those situations. So when things are good, they're going to let you keep going. When things aren't good, they're going to go to a veteran and like make sure that things are going the right way. So he's not allowed the same mistakes. He's not allowed to go jump on people's backs and fall down and go crazy and do the things that Jaden Ivey did. And they're just going to they're going to learn a different way. So one of them like might have much better stats, but one of them, the other one is actually playing meaningful minutes on a good team. And that's a big deal.
That play really stood out. I was like,
oh my gosh,
settle down.
Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah.
We've regularly mentioned De'Aaron Fox finding his smile, if you will, in a different way. Has Harrison Barnes does the same thing?
Man, I think
Harrison looks like he's having fun. I mean, as much as Harrison Barnes can look like he's having fun, because he's never over the top. I was watching his, I think it was an NBA TV interview, and it was like Harrison. It was like Harrison Barnes' version of fun. Might be different than
really
mine. Yeah, right.
straight face. Yeah.
Exactly. But he spoke with a little bit more joy. He was probably thrilled to not be answering questions about a 9-game losing streak or an organization on its deathbed and things like that. But it looks like Harrison is having a good time.
Like I totally agree. And this is the other part of the piece I wrote yesterday is that Harrison Barnes, like we've said this so many times, he means so much to this team and to the way, like, if you can't respect who and what Harrison Barnes is as a community member and all that stuff, then I don't know. Like, the Kings haven't had guys like this all the time. Like, Garrett Temple was a great community guy.
Mhm.
They have guys that are really good in the community, but Harrison Barnes just takes things to such a different level. And he's so professional behind the scenes. The way he takes care of his body is something that young players learn from. He is teaching the entire time how to maintain himself. What is he? Is he year 11 in the league?
Mhm.
And he's 30 years old, and he still looks like he's in prime shape. And the Kings are very cognizant of what he means to that locker room. And if Monty McNair were to pull the trigger on a big deal that involved Harrison Barnes because he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, it would have to be for something very, very big. That's because they're worried that if you shake up the chemistry of this team right now, it's one thing to pick off players around the peripheral, guys who aren't playing as much, like Rashawn Holmes or Alex Len, who's like a $4 million expiring contract. Even like if you got into the TD situation where he's again an expiring contract of $4 million, or Trey Lyles at $2.6 million, all of those things, like. But when you reach into the core of that team and you start talking about Harrison Barnes, it's got to be another Harrison Barnes. It's got to be someone who means more than just points and rebounds,
Mhm.
and it's a big deal for this group. And so, if you knew that Harrison Barnes was signing an extension, or you could get him to sign an extension now, that's something I would consider, because if you know he's
Yeah.
going to be here for the next 3 years,
Mhm.
that's a lot different than having no idea and having to risk going to next season with no starting small forward and having to reset yourself, especially when this team is very likely not going to have a top tier draft pick
Right.
like they have in previous years, where you could start building off of that. So it just makes it a little more complicated.
Yeah, James, I've talked about it a little bit. I wouldn't touch this team right now. You know what I mean? I'd let them do it, and at the very least, I would wait until this stretch of 15 and 19 at home, because I think that's going to tell you a lot about whether you need something or not. Because if they do the 10 and 5, 11 and 4, or something like that, well, at least with this group, you can take care of business at home. You can do that, and you don't need a major shakeup to come in here and be a team that's contending, or a possible top 6 team, as opposed to a playing team. You can start to get a little more selective of what you do. But the point that you made about just messing up that locker room, I'd be real cautious. They This isn't just a team that's like, oh, they're a good team, they're solid. Like, this is a team that seems to love each other, and I just wouldn't mess with that. I really wouldn't.
The only way you do is if, again, you're picking off the peripheral. If you're going like players 11 through 15, and
Mhm.
you're somehow turning
Mhm.
that into a major rotational piece that improves your team.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we can all look at this team. We know that every team in the league could use more shooting. This team in particular needs another defender, and they could use a shot blocking presence that they can actually get on the floor and play. They need a 3 or a 4 that can actually block shots.
Mhm.
And so if you can get that done without disrupting the core and add to it, I would, like, when we watch baseball, you get to the stretch run, you know what you need. You
Mhm.
know, you got to go out and get another reliever. You got to get another bat in the middle of the
Mhm.
order.
Mhm.
Like, those are things that you have to get in order to put yourself over the top in baseball.
Yeah.
I think this team could use one more move to put them over the top, where right now you're tenuous at the number 5. Could you slide in number 7? Could you slide in number 8? Sure you can. And with the play-in, I think for the last couple of years, everyone's like, man, we can only get to the play-in. We can only get to the play-in. Well, that's the play-in is really, it's 7 through 10. It's not just the 9 and 10 that are the play-in. Like if you're number 7 or you're number 8, you're not in the playoffs until you beat the other play-in teams. And so like you want to be number 6, you want to be number 5, so you don't have to worry about how the play-in portion of it. You want to be able to get up higher.
I got good news for you, James. Kenny, myself, the Chatty House, we solved the shot blocker problem earlier, and it won't cost you much of anything. D. White Howard.
How do you say his name like that?
Dwight Howard, come on, man. Pick him up in Taiwan, bring him up to Sacramento. Let's rock. Hey, big fella, protect the rim. 7 to 11 minutes per game. Let's go.
Yeah, he's different. Like he's one of the more different players that I've been around in the league. And
he is different.
And you can mess up chemistry by bringing in the wrong piece. And so we talk.
Oh, that's not Dwight. No,
I don't think so. I think
we talk about this delicate balance. Like I want someone who can actually do some of the things that Sabonis can do.
Okay, that's not Dwight.
Well, I had a question, and this kind of, I like the option of Dwight better than this, but I'm just throwing it out there. All right. And the reason why I don't like this is because it'll probably take away Harrison Barnes, and I don't want to do that. But what about Kristaps Porzingis?
Oh, well, again, like character matters, and that's not a high character guy behind the scenes. So, I mean, he's had issues in the past. His situation in New York that he got out of was sketchy. He's got some family members that are around that may or may not be a deterrent who run his stuff for him. Like he's a guy that, like, if you're going to put red flags, like between the knee injuries and the personality off court stuff, he would be a hard pass for me. Yeah. And for that matter, like I would kind of put Kyle Kuzma in that group as well. Not that he's a horrible human being or anything, but that like he wants something different, and it's not just about basketball. And Sacramento really doesn't have the glitz and the glamour that he's looking for as a player. So like those are things that matter when you're going out and you're trying to add chemistry pieces. And I covered the team when Iman Shumpert wasn't playing that much, but he was starting. But he had this mojo. And then when he left, it really did change the dynamic in the locker room for, not for the bad. I mean, it shifted dramatically, and a lot of players just kind of like let go. And I don't think anyone thought that would be the result of trading him, just because from like a coaching and a front office perspective, he actually was becoming more like he wanted more of a role. He wanted more minutes. He wanted to finish games and was starting to push buttons. And the Kings weren't ready for that, and they didn't want that. And so the players loved him. Coaches and management were starting to like get a little worn out with him wanting to be more. And so you're always like, when you're making this move, if you're going to make another move, it would hopefully be for something that is meaningful, that will last a couple of years, or two small pieces that would help bolster the back end of your rotation, just get you over the top.
Yeah. I mean, for the record, I wouldn't do the Porzingis deal for a couple of different reasons, but I thought about him. Honestly, James, I wouldn't touch this roster. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, and that's not what GMs do or whatever. I wouldn't touch this roster right now.
Well, I mean, like tonight, Charlotte's rolling in. Charlotte it looks like they're done. They've had such a bad start to the season. They could always turn things around, but it's more likely that they'll take a step backwards because they had, again, the Miles Bridges situation. They had Ball being injured. But like if they want to just leave a couple of players here and PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee, and you can work out something.
Do that.
PJ, come on, man, we got you.
But again, those are deals that fully make sense. They're players that can step in, that can fill roles without upsetting the delicate balance of what's happening. Again, like Plumlee, he can run the offense. Like he was Jade Troiano's center the last 5 years or 4 years or whatever he's been in Charlotte. Like that was his guy. He can run this offense. He can step in, and when Sabonis steps off the court, he's not the same type of player. He's not the same like quality of passer, but he can do the job, and it's something that this team lacks. It's that secondary guy that can, when Sabonis goes out, that you don't take a big, drop off.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk more Kings basketball with our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham, when we get back here on Sacramento Sports Leaders, D'Lo and KC on ESPN 1320.
Oh, gosh. You didn't hear him?
No.
Who is?
He said TT still a free agent.
Oh, no. I thought he was with the Bulls.
I thought he. Oh, TT.
I could have sworn he
TT.
was like they rolled through town and he was there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hey, we see a lot of people in here right now. Hit that like and subscribe button, man. Click that thumbs up for your boys here on D'Lo and KC. James Ham, he's here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We got the professor, Jason Jones, on Tuesday. We've got the ultimate baddie, Matt George, on Thursdays.
Indeed.
We got you covered, man. We got you covered here. Baddie,
It's Batty.
I forgot to mention that this morning. Baddie Thursday needs to be brought to you by somebody.
It does.
We didn't create it a whole day.
Batty Thursday.
Brought to you by OnlyFans.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, why not? Why
Gilbert
not?
in the chatty house, you bring up Kata. Like at some point, I think, if you keep having these games with Chimezi where it's not working out, which like the last two games I thought were very like big time, like what is happening moments from Chimezi Metu. So much that Mike Brown and Jordy Fernandez both turned to Rashawn Holmes in the second half instead of Chimezi. Like if you're gonna start doing that stuff, then you might as well see what Kata can do. I mean, it's one thing to see what Kata can do against Joel Embiid, but it's a whole nother thing to like let him go into a game like tonight and see if he can handle himself. And remember the last time they played Charlotte, Mason Plumlee somehow got Domantas Sabonis in foul trouble like instantly. And so it's one of those things where you might need somebody to play tonight, and that might be why Neemias Queta is still in Sacramento and not down at the G League showcase. I do think Queta will be at the showcase. He's just not there today. He's with the team today. Okay. Yeah, when the Bulls came through town, somebody said, "Oh, Tristan Thompson's down there," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think he's on the Bulls this year." So yeah,
TT.
they have big Andre Drummond.
Yeah, we talked about Andre Drummond.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, this 6'10", 279 that he's listed at, that is inaccurate. That is not accurate at all. And talk about a player who's fallen off so dramatically. It's just absolutely crazy. He's only 29.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah,
That
let's
is
see.
wild.
Since the 1920 season, Detroit, Cleveland, Lakers, 76ers, Nets, and Bulls. 6 teams in 3 years.
Well, I'm always down for a little taco.
Taco Fall.
There's nothing.
Come on, Taco.
That's a big man.
That is indeed.
Is
I
Taco
haven't
out of
talked
the
about.
league?
He's huh?
Is he out of the league?
He's like in.
I think he's on
China.
yeah.
Is he in Korea or is he in China?
I think he's still in America. I think he's in a G League team.
No, I think he left.
Oh,
Like he was. That is the biggest dude like I've ever like the other guy like Simbulo.
He is in China, by the way.
7'5", right? Taco Fall is what 7'6", 7'7".
He's 7'6". Yeah.
Yeah, but Taco, like he has to turn sideways to get through doors. Like his shoulders are so broad. That is a huge man. The other guy that was big like that was Aaron Gray. But Aaron Gray was like a 1.5 feet, 2 feet thick, like at the chest. He just barrel chested. That was a big Grizzly Adams dude.
Thanks to our man, that local guy. I hadn't seen this. Apparently, Kings general manager Monty McNell is expected to get a new contract. So, James, can you check with your sources to see if Monty McNell is going to get a deal?
Yeah, where is that?
Kings GM McNeil.
Monty McNeil.
Yeah, but who's the local guy you're talking about?
That local guy. That's his name.
Oh.
And I'm watching this video of Willie McGinnis.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
No. What the heck? First of all, Willie McGinnis he work for the NFL Network.
Yep.
What are you doing going into a bar? Not even a bar, a restaurant. This wasn't a bar. He went into a restaurant. A high-class restaurant, it looks like.
And did what?
And starts socking up this guy who was sitting there eating. Him and his boys jumped this guy, basically. We're back.
Taking you to the top of the hour with our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham here. Here's some stats from our statistician, Will Z. Let's talk about the Kings' third quarters. We saw it again on Friday when they outscored Detroit 38-23. The Kings' third quarters, offensive rating 116.8. That's good for 8th in the league. Defensive rating 110. That's good for 7th in the league. Net rating 6.1. That's good for 6th in the league. The Kings are a top third quarter team.
Wow.
And now we are officially in bizarro world.
Who would have ever thunk it? Remember how afraid we were at third quarters? I haven't felt that way not once this year.
Wasn't
afraid of things.
Well,
afraid of a lot of things with the Kings.
You're afraid of being a drug smuggler, apparently.
I mean, this is
if you've been here all day, you know that Kenny's afraid of being a drug smuggler.
At least I made the right decision in my dream.
Sitting around crying, and that's why you gotta check the YouTube feed when you can, because KC been telling some wild stories during those commercial breaks.
With dope, stupid, dumb.
Oh, that's incredible. What a shift in the third quarter, the way that the Kings have played in the third quarter. That is a massive relief to Kings fans, but it says something, I think, about James. We used this example earlier. How many times did that happen to the Kings last year when they were in a close game against a good team, and then the third quarter starts and it's over?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like a different version of the Kings than we have for years and years. I mean, like the preparation, the way that they're turning things around, and in the locker room at halftime, they're making adjustments. They're the ones who are coming out with the energy and punching. This is like something that, a couple of years ago, it was like, how come you're getting killed every single night in the third quarter? And all of a sudden, this is becoming a strength of this team. It's they've got pieces that are different, right? And so if something's working, Mike Brown sticks with it. If something isn't, he isn't shy about going to Malik Monk early and giving the team some energy. And he's not worried about some of these things that, like there is no ego. There's not an ego with him. There's not an ego with his players. Like, I'm going to do what's best for the team tonight. We're going to figure out something else that's working. And like this team they have an ability right now to take a punch and to hit with a counter punch. And it's something that, again, this was Glass Joe for a long time here in Sacramento. You hit this team hard in the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, and is widely known around the league that they're going to crumple up and go crawl into the corner. And that's just not what we're seeing at this point.
Hey, James, so, I know last week Damian talked about, this team is who they are. And when are we going to kind of start appreciating and accepting that. But I still feel like there's like checkpoints, right? They passed this test with the 6-game road trip. They went 500. They gutted out some wins to go 5. That was one of the things. Well, we're going to learn a lot about this team on this 6-game road trip. What's the next? We're going to learn a lot about this team checkpoint. Is it the 6-game homestand that they have following this right now? But as part of that 15-19?
Yeah, I think it's 11 of 13 too. Like they have a 6, and then they have like a 2-game break where they're away right at New Year's, and then they come back for another 5 before they have another 2-day. Like we've seen this before. We've seen this dance before where was it last year where the Kings had like a cupcake schedule in December, and the whole entire month was just laid out for them to be like a really strong in the conversation team, and they just lay down and took it. And you're like, what in the world just happened? And so like, look, at some point, like we keep checking these things off, but it comes back to what today is. Like this is the third opportunity this season to go 5 games over 500. This team has not done that in 16 years. Like it's a step. It's just one of these little statistical moments, but it is a step where if you can get past one of these little, roadblocks, then maybe you got a shot. And, they keep passing the test, like what you're saying, the 300 road trip. Like I didn't believe that would happen. I thought 2-4 was like the sort of the top. I thought they would steal one and they would win against Detroit. Even though I thought the Detroit game would be tougher than it was, just because the last game of 6-game road trip, I thought they'd be able to steal one. And I did not think they'd be able to steal one in Toronto on the second night of a back-to-back. That's a tough game too. And Toronto's a well-coached team, and they've got a bunch of like matchup issues with the Kings.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they pass a test, even with De'Aaron Fox missing 2 games and Davion Mitchell missing a game, again, like just keep checking off these little moments for this team. And that's what a season's about. 82 games. It's 5-game increments or 10-game increments. You need to stay on it the whole season. You can't have these big drop-offs, these 7-8-game losing streaks, as this team has been known for over the last, I don't know, what is it? Well, my entire career covering the team. They always have one time during the season where they just completely fall apart. It's good to see.
Yeah.
James, you clearly have not seen the trifecta of perfection that is this Washington game on Friday. Obviously, the Kings play, they got the Hornets tonight, worst team in the league. You've got the Lakers coming in here who are playing well, but they're playing without Anthony Davis on Wednesday. Friday, you've got the Washington Wizards, who at this point in the season have lost 10 straight games. But that game on Friday, James, is the last game of a 6-game road trip. It's the second night of a doubleheader. Or back-to-back, excuse me. And the first game of that back-to-back is in Utah. That is 3 NBA excuses why the Washington Wizards should lose.
That is what you call a scheduled loss. But not for a typical season. In a typical year, you're like, it's all right. We'll get one of those games. We'll either get Utah or we'll get Sacramento on the second night.
Better not be that second night. I swear to God, they better not lose that game on Friday.
Yeah, those are 2 good teams. Those are 2 really, really good teams that you're going to have to. And I'm putting the Kings in that lot. That's a good team. It's So in my first season, just so for a point of reference, they went 3-1 to start the year. They lost 6 straight, 1-1, lost 8 straight, 1-1, lost 8 straight.
Oh my God.
So in my first season, they had a stretch, which was game 4 through game 28, where they won 2 games.
Oh,
and I don't even want to,
man.
I've told this story on the happy hour, and I'm not going to tell it here, but that they lost 8 straight. They played the Washington Wizards and John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins rookie season. And they won that game. John Wall hurt himself in warmups. And then they lost the next 8 after that. That one game. Yeah, that's one of those James stories that I tell off the record. about what happened.
Oh man, I got it.
I
Thank
need
God
that.
thank God I'm a premium subscriber. I gotta hear this story. You better call on me when I raise my hand next happy hour. You can become a premium subscriber by going to thekingsbeat.com. So basically, going back to Kenny's original question about those moments where they got, this is going to tell us a lot. No, this is going to tell us a lot. We're doing this all damn year, aren't we?
Yeah.
They're going to be like 43 wins. This is really going to tell us a lot about this team. And
well, we could be talking about home court advantage.
We could be
a lot if this is, if this
if this
really
team finishes number one, that's gonna tell us a lot.
There's still like 3 games out of the one spot.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Crazy.
We have to start changing our expectations, and it's so hard to do because this team is like, the fan base is Charlie Brown, and this team is Lucy and just keeps pulling the ball right out in front of them and sending them flying again and again and again and again. But at some point, you hope that changes, and it feels like the year. But look, I said that before. This feels like it might be different. No, no excuses right now. You need 3 straight wins. And I haven't even looked at the schedule beyond that. These next 3 games you laid out, you got to beat the Lakers without Anthony Davis. You've got to beat the Wizards, who are on the second night of a back-to-back and are absolutely, shorthanded and all kinds of. Those are things that you have to do. If you want to be this team, it's got to happen right now. And it can't. But every stage of this season, it's got to happen right now. This team has to live in the moment. They got to look at every single stretch as an opportunity and not as, oh, great, we're going to go 1-5 on the road trip and kill all the good positive vibes. You've got to figure out how to break the season up and to stay in the moment and fight each individual game. And if they can do that, then they got a shot.
But that's my thing, Casey. I'm sorry. That's the Sacramento Kings franchise. That's not the Sacramento Kings team. And that's what we were talking about a few weeks ago when we were talking about analysts or writers or national media people who don't have anything good to say about the Sacramento Kings, who are just like, oh, it's the Kings, they're going to blow it at some point. You clearly haven't watched this team, because that's not this group. You're judging the name on the jersey. You're judging the Sacramento Kings more than you're judging the Sacramento Kings team. You're judging the franchise more than you are the team. This version of the Sacramento Kings has not dropped the ball one time this year. No, and it's that PTSD that we have where we're just waiting for the failure to hit, despite the fact that is so clearly not this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at their record right now and going through game by game. Have they lost a game? Let me look. The New York Knicks are 17-13.
They've won 7 straight.
The Miami Heat are 16-15. The Kings, as of right now, when they played them, yes, but as of today, they don't have a single loss to a team that's every single one of their losses is to a 500 or better team. And I mean, they don't have a single loss to a team that's a bad team. That's where this team is always like, oh man, if you get Philadelphia on a Tuesday night and you just fired your coach, and you should be riding high off the firing of your coach, because that's typically how things go in Sacramento or in other cities, but Sacramento more specifically because they blow through coaches so quickly. But if you're looking at going up against the Philadelphia 76ers team missing 5 starters, you can't get blown out.
No.
And that was last year.
Yeah.
That's not this year. I mean, it's not 5 years ago. I'm not referencing something way off in the distance. Last year, they got clubbed by a team missing 5 starters, including 2 all-world starters, and you just get run over. So yeah, you got to be different. You got to resetting the culture is really hard, but it's still that's the moment they're in. How do you stay right here in the moment? You got 3 games. Each of them are 1 game at a time. You got to get all 3. And because then you got Denver twice.
Yeah. And check this out. Even if they were to the numbers that you rolled off of the teams, they haven't lost to a bad team or while they were under 500, whatever it was. Like we're even like kind of grading them on a curve because like, yeah, you're gonna have some games when like if you went down that list and you said they had 2 games against, where they lost against teams they should have beat. All right. Like that's the NBA. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But the fact that they haven't, and even when they do, it's we're like kind of shocked by it a little bit. It's a testament to who these guys are, man. They have had about even with the 0-4 start, about as good of a start to this season as anybody could have realistically imagined. They've been really, really good this year.
Yeah. I mean, again, like they talked about it from the beginning of the year. Mike Brown kept saying, we're going to stay in the moment. We're going to be hyper focused on each and we're not looking ahead. Don't ask us questions about the future games. Just stay right here. And it's like, okay. And to be honest, like typically this team does do that. They always look ahead. They're always like 5 games ahead. And they're just not doing it this year. They are super, super focused on the moment and trying to get that win tonight. And then we'll deal with the next win tomorrow. Yeah. We'll start over again tomorrow and we'll figure it out. So yeah.
Just trying to go 1-0 every day, man. Just trying to go 1-0
baby.
every day.
Win the day.
Go Hawks. Let's ride.
Let's go. Oh man.
Go Hawks, let's ride.
Oh, so bad. You mentioned this earlier, and I probably should have pressed you a little bit further. Could you elaborate on this? You were talking about Chimezie Metu's play, and that's why we've seen Richaun Holmes lately.
I'm gonna guess. I mean, like again, they're on the road, and like the decision has been made not to use Zoom, so you can actually get like full-fledged interviews in post game. So we're not getting those, and no one is traveling outside of maybe one person from the B here and there. So like there is no pulling Mike Brown aside and saying, hey, what's going on here? But they've said all along, like we're not forgetting that Richaun Holmes is on this team. Mike Brown talked about it right before they left for the trip. Like, we talk about all these players who are stepping up and don't forget, like we still have Richaun Holmes sitting over here who's been a starter in this league. And we just haven't been able to figure out how to get him into the lineup yet. Like, look, if you're Chimezie Metu, we talked about this early, he has to buy into his role 100%. And I think he's done such a good job of doing that this season. And it's not easy. You're going to get crumbs. You need to go out there and you need to rebound. You need to hit the lob when it's there. And if you have just the most wide open 3 of all time, go ahead and take it here and there. But if you miss one, don't take another one. Like as long as he's playing within like these strict rules, then he's perfectly serviceable as Domantas Sabonis's backup for 13 to 15 minutes a night. But when you start seeing the variance and you start seeing things, we're like, okay, I don't know what that was, but like somebody got too hungry and starts thinking that they're going to do this or that. That's when like sometimes you got to pull back, and you got Richaun Holmes sitting there waiting, and you got Neemias Queta sitting there waiting. Alex Len has played something like it's ridiculous. I don't think he's logged 100 minutes on the year. Richaun Holmes logged 120 minutes. So we think about, he got a shot early in the year. Like he's used to playing 30 minutes a night. That's 4 games. And so he really hasn't got an opportunity either to really show what he can do. And it's about like learning on the fly and staying in the moment and making sure that you're doing what your role is, not what you want to be or who you think you can be. Just do what they're asking. And so, yeah, I think that over the last couple of games, we've just seen a little bit of like different moves. And again, the Kings at some point, don't forget the whole December 15th date. I think some teams in the league might want to see, especially coming into, the G League showcase we talked about earlier. All of the executives in the NBA are down in Vegas hanging out together. This is where trades begin to take form. They started in the offseason, but they're further reignited and all that stuff right here at the G League showcase. And then you start working over like you have your principles coming out of this. And then you start working on the finer mechanics as you get closer to the deadline. And so do you think that teams need to see that Richaun Holmes can step on a court and actually run up and down and there's not something wrong with him? Yes, that's part of that could be a part of why he's played in the last couple of games.
That's I was going to ask you too. Like, did you think there was some showcasing going
Well, he's
on?
played
there?
6 minutes over 2 games, so like just give him a taste, Casey. Just give him a taste. Don't give him too much. Don't give him too much. Just a little taste.
We got them samples.
Yeah,
Got them samples out here. Them red tops. We got them red tops.
This is some Costco sampler. Like you walk over, like, oh, that wasn't bad.
Oh man, they be getting you every time with the damn samples. Man, I remember this one bread they had toasted. Oh man, I must have bought about 3 packs of those things.
Yeah. Did you ever were you able to duplicate what they did there?
Ish.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same, but it was still good. It
Yeah.
was a good purchase.
I'm about to go so hard this weekend. I'm cooking on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, it's lit.
I'm getting in my bag this
You getting
weekend.
on the grill?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can't wait. I can't
I
wait.
got the prime rib set up for Sunday.
That's
You're gonna make me eat on the grill, man. I might have to
that's-
get hamburgers and hot dogs.
What?
no, not for Christmas. No.
Man,
No.
I
Kenny,
used to always
come
have burgers for Christmas. What y'all talking
You
about?
slow cook that prime rib all
Yeah,
morning.
that's it.
That's the house.
That's it.
Good.
It's
Oh, yeah.
tri-tip Saturday and it's prime rib. It's that's right. It's tri-tip Saturday. It's prime rib on Sunday.
And I told you the secret, right? Make sure you go to the produce department and get the horseradish root and actually make your own horseradish.
You didn't tell me
Oh.
that secret, but you have told me
Oh.
now, and we will plan
My
to do that.
Goodness, it's the best thing ever. You got to have a little white vinegar, a little
James,
Little
we've
sugar.
got to go.
Oh.
Got to go.
My bad.
Cooking hour with James Ham coming up on Wednesday.